Everyone in my neighborhood warned me about Karen, the HOA president who thinks she runs the entire block like her own private kingdom. But I never imagined she'd break into my garage in the dead of night using what she smugly calls her universal code. She thought she was so clever, so entitled to everything behind my locked doors, but there's one thing Karen didn't know: I designed the entire security system myself. It started 3 nights ago. I was in my home office, sipping cold coffee, staring at the live security feed I'd installed after a string of petty HOA fines mysteriously started showing up in my mailbox. No one believed me when I said someone was snooping around, not the other homeowners, not even the local police. To them, Karen was just a nosy neighbor. To me, she was a ticking time bomb of entitlement. That night, just past midnight, the motion sensors flickered on. My phone buzzed, Zone 3, Garage. I watched in disbelief as Karen, with her perfectly coiffed helmet hair and that same smug purse she always clutched at HOA meetings, punched in a code at my side door keypad. 1, 2, 3 tries, and the lock clicked open like butter. She actually waltzed in, flashlight in hand, stepping over my tools like she owned the place. What was she looking for? An excuse to find me again? Proof of some invented violation? My heart pounded as I whispered to myself, she has no idea I've been waiting for this. The system I built isn't your average store-bought alarm. It's wired with hidden sensors, backup power, and a recording feature she can't disable. Every move she makes in that garage is being logged, time-stamped, and streamed straight to the cloud, and to me. I slipped on my shoes, grabbed my phone, and crept down the hallway, each step echoing in my chest. I knew I had to catch her in the act, but a part of me wondered, what if she's not just here to snoop? What if she finds the old blueprints for my smart locks, or worse, plans something to get me in trouble with the HOA board? I stood by the door, heart hammering. On the other side of that thin wall, Karen was about to get the shock of her life. Because the universal code she bragged about? It works both ways, and she just locked herself inside my fortress. But the real question was, what did she come here to hide, or to steal? I held my breath as I pressed my ear to the door. Inside the garage, I could hear Karen's cheap rubber soles scuffing the concrete floor. She was muttering to herself something about violations and noncompliance. Typical HOA talk, the same language she'd used to bully half the neighborhood into submission. But this time she'd crossed a line. I couldn't help but remember how this all started. I moved here for a fresh start. A quiet street, good neighbors, space to tinker with my custom smart home systems. I didn't expect to become the HOA's favorite target. The first fine was for a non-standard mailbox. Then came the noise complaints for power tools I never even used past sunset. But the worst was when she tried to get my workshop shut down entirely, claiming I was operating a business out of my garage. In reality, that garage was my safe space, the place where I designed and tested home security setups for clients who needed real protection. I'd seen too many people ripped off by cheap locks and glitchy cameras, so I made it my mission to build something foolproof. Ironically, Karen's nosiness was exactly why I made my own system 10 times more advanced than anything you can buy at a store. I remember the day she cornered me at my driveway, wagging her finger, telling me she knew things about everyone on the street, that she had a universal override code to check every garage, every backyard, every so-called violation. The way she said it made my skin crawl. I knew right then she'd come for me eventually. Back in the present, I watched the live feed on my phone. Karen shuffled deeper into the garage, pulling open cabinets, peering into storage bins, snapping pictures on her phone. My anger flared, not just because she was trespassing, but because she had the gall to think she could rewrite the truth. If she planted something, a bottle of chemicals, a fake HOA violation slip, the entire board would believe her over me. That's how she'd done it to my neighbor last spring. Poor old Mr. Hammond had to move after Karen convinced everyone he was hoarding dangerous materials. All he had were paint cans. The feed flickered as Karen moved closer to my locked file drawers, the ones that held the blueprints for my security network. I'd poured years of work into those designs, testing them on my own house first. If they fell into the wrong hands, she could exploit every vulnerability, not just here, but for any client who trusted my work. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. This wasn't about petty HOA rules anymore. It was about my livelihood, my reputation, maybe even my freedom. If Karen could bend the rules to get into my garage, what else was she capable of? I knew what I had to do. I unlocked the internal override on my phone, setting the garage door to lockdown mode. Karen might think she's in charge, but she just became my unwilling guest. Her phone wouldn't connect to any network now. I jammed at the moment she stepped inside. She'd never planned on being caught, never dreamed she could be on the other side of the HOA's watchful eye. But as I stood there, hand hovering over the doorknob, a question kept gnawing at me. What if she's not working alone? If Karen had the code, who else did? What if the entire HOA board was in on it, quietly cracking open garages all over the neighborhood, building secret dossiers on everyone? I pressed my forehead against the cool wood of the door, listening to her frantic footsteps as she realized the keypad wasn't responding. A sharp bang echoed. She just tried the side door and found it deadlocked. She was trapped. But this was far from over. I watched from the small hallway window as Karen pounded on the locked garage door. Her phone must have gone dark by now. She hadn't realized my signal jammer cut off all calls, even to her precious HOA security hotline. She looked almost comical, her hair a frizzy halo of panic, her eyes darting around for a way out that didn't exist. But I knew better than to gloat. People like Karen don't work alone. They thrive on gossip, on secret alliances. And the more I thought about it, the more I wondered. What if she wasn't just snooping for fines? What if someone higher up on the HOA board put her up to this? I slipped back into my office and pulled up the hidden camera feeds for the whole property. I hadn't noticed it before. My attention had been glued to Karen in the garage. But now I spotted something that made my stomach clench. A black SUV, engine running, idling just down the street. Headlights off, parked halfway under a tree. And inside, I could see the faint blue glow of someone checking their phone, watching my house like a hawk. My mind raced through all the possible scenarios. Was this just Karen's backup? Or was someone else recording me, waiting to twist this into a new HOA violation? After all, if I was seen locking a board member in my garage, well, that would be pretty hard to explain at the next neighborhood meeting. The kind of thing Karen would spin into a threat to community safety. A bitter laugh bubbled up. HOA politics, neighborhood secrets, and me, the guy who just wanted a quiet place to build security systems. Now I was the villain in my own driveway. I checked the feed again. Karen was sitting on my workbench now, rummaging through her purse, probably looking for another universal override. I knew she wouldn't find one, but what if she had something else in that bottomless bag? A fake letter? A hidden mic? A planted evidence bag she could pull out later, claiming she'd discovered illegal equipment? I stepped away from the monitor and sank into my office chair. For a second, I let the fear crawl in. If Karen had dirt on me, or worse, if she made some up, she could ruin everything. And if that SUV was really another board member, I was already on trial in a kangaroo court. I glanced at the old framed photo on my shelf, my dad and I working in the garage where I'd learned to wire my first circuit board. "This place is yours. Protect it," he'd always say. I took a breath. No HOA busybody was going to take that away from me. I pulled up the hidden mic feed in the garage. Karen was on the phone, or trying to be. "Hello? Hello? I'm trapped. I don't know what he's going to do. He's unstable. You have to come now." Her voice was shrill, cracking at the edges. If someone on the other end was recording her, they'd have one hell of a soundbite. I clenched my jaw. She was turning herself into the victim, spinning her own break-in into my crime. And if that SUV was wired for video too, all they'd need was a few seconds of me yelling or banging on the door to make it look like a threat. A new question chilled me. If she's willing to lie about this, what else has she lied about? My fines. The other neighbors she'd driven out. Mr. Hammond's forced move. Maybe even the dangerous materials were planted too. I knew I had to get her out of my garage. But not before I made sure I had the proof I needed. And if the HOA board wanted to play dirty, I could do dirty better than they ever imagined. I glanced at the live feed of the SUV again. Its driver's window rolled down. A silhouette leaned out, watching my house. Then, suddenly, the SUV headlights flicked on, flooding my driveway in harsh white light. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Incoming video call. My heart pounded as I hit accept, not knowing who or what would be on the other side. The video call connected before I could think twice. The screen flickered, and there, in the ghostly glow of a dashboard camera, sat Councilman Ray Delaney, vice president of our HOA board, the same man who'd signed half the fines I'd racked up since moving in. "Evening," Ray drawled, his face too calm for someone parked outside my house at midnight. He glanced at something off-screen, then locked eyes with me through the lens. "Quite a situation you've got yourself into." I forced my voice steady. "What do you want, Ray?" He smirked, brushing invisible lint from his blazer. You think you're so clever with your fancy cameras and your fortress of secrets. But we've known for a while you'd slip up. Karen was just supposed to confirm what we already suspected. My mouth went dry. And what exactly is that? That you've been running an unlicensed operation. Selling surveillance tech without HOA compliance. You've got design files in there that don't meet our community safety standards. And you know what that means, right? He leaned in closer, his voice dripping fake sympathy. Automatic termination of your residency. Loss of property. You know the drill. I felt my heartbeat hammering in my ears. So you send your watchdog to break in? He shrugged. We have authority. Emergency inspections. Safety first, remember? My eyes flicked back to the feed. Karen was pacing, red-faced, still jiggling the locked side door. Her purse lay open on my workbench and something shiny glinted inside it. I zoomed the camera in. It wasn't a phone, it was a small black flash drive. My pulse spiked. She was stealing my blueprints. Here's the thing, Ray, I said, voice cold now. I designed that system. Every access code. Every override. I have footage of Karen using a fake universal code to trespass. And if I open that garage door right now, she walks out with stolen property. Who do you think the cops will believe? His smile never wavered, but his eyes hardened. The board controls the narrative, son. You think a few camera feeds will protect you? They'll paint you as unstable. Paranoid. A threat to the community. The word unstable rattled around my head. I'd heard that same word whispered after Mr. Hammond left. After that young couple down the street got evicted for non-compliance when they refused to pay bogus fees. They'd always made it look like the homeowners were the problem, never the board. But this time I had the truth on tape. And I wasn't about to let them spin it. Ray sighed dramatically. Look, let's not make this uglier than it needs to be. Let Karen go, hand over the original blueprints, and we'll forget this ever happened. You'll get a final warning, pay your fines, and maybe keep your home. Otherwise, he gestured to the SUV's passenger seat. The shadow next to him shifted, another board member, or worse, someone with a badge in their pocket. My mind raced. If they really called the cops, Karen could claim she'd found dangerous contraband in my garage. One planted piece of evidence and I'd be in handcuffs by sunrise. I muted the call, switched feeds. In the garage, Karen was now rifling through drawers she had no business touching. The hidden mic picked up her muttering. Where is it? He said it'd be here. It has to be here. He said? Who was he? Not Ray, he was watching me now. Someone else. Another link in this chain of corruption. I am muted. Who else is in on this, Ray? Who told Karen what to look for? Ray's eyes flickered just for a second. Don't get paranoid, son. Just open the door. Outside, I heard the SUV's engine rev. Another car was pulling up, headlights splashed across my living room window. Back up. Maybe the neighborhood security guard Karen loved to brag about. Maybe a local cop she'd bribed with HOA donations. This was it, they were forcing my hand. I looked around my office, the old photo of Dad, the sketches on the wall, my entire life built behind these walls. I wouldn't let them tear it down with a fake code and a smug grin. I unmuted one last time. Ray, you want my files so bad? Come and get them. I ended the call. My fingers flew over the security app. I switched my system to fail-safe mode. If they forced the garage door, the cameras would upload everything to my offsite cloud, and to a local news drop I'd set up just in case. A sudden, sharp noise echoed downstairs. Metal hitting concrete. I checked the feed. Karen had found the manual emergency latch. She was trying to open the main garage door by force. Outside, I saw Ray's SUV pull forward, tires crunching gravel. Doors opened. More silhouettes stepped out, flashlights sweeping across my yard. They weren't waiting anymore. I grabbed my phone, heart pounding. This was my home, my work, my fight to lose. One question burned through my mind. Could I outsmart the very system I'd built to stop people like them? The banging on my garage door rattled through the whole house. Karen had managed to pry the manual latch just enough to wedge her flashlight handle into the track. She was screaming now, voice hoarse, calling for Ray and whoever else was outside to get her out. I switched camera feeds again. The SUV's headlights were blazing across my front yard. 2 more HOA board members had arrived. Both of them people I'd once waved to at the community potluck. Now they stood there like private enforcers, flashlights slicing across my windows. One was on the phone, probably laying the groundwork for a wellness check that would turn into a false police report if I didn't play along. I had the entire house locked down. Every door deadbolt, every window alarmed. But my stomach twisted when I spotted the fourth figure stepping out from the SUV. Someone in a dark jacket. No HOA badge. No clipboard. He wasn't one of them. He was holding a slim black case. I zoomed in lockpicking tools. So that was their backup plan. Bypass my tech, break in by brute force and catch me off guard. But they'd underestimated one thing, the fail-safe system I'd coded myself. The moment any door cracked, every piece of footage would beam straight to an auto-upload server I'd buried behind layers of proxies. I wasn't going down alone. I was about to trigger the alarm when my phone vibrated with a text. Unknown number. Just 3 words, check the back. A chill shot up my spine. I flipped the exterior feed to my backyard. There, standing just inside my fence line, was my neighbor Julia. She looked out of place. Pink bathrobe, messy hair, phone pressed to her ear. The last person I expected to see on my side tonight. I answered her call. Julia? What are you doing back there? Her voice trembled. They're lying to you. You can't trust Ray. You can't trust anyone. I pressed my free hand against the window glass, squinting through the glare of the SUV headlights. What are you talking about? She stepped closer, glancing nervously over her shoulder. Karen. She's not just here for your designs. She's looking for proof. She thinks you have the HOA's financial ledgers hidden in your garage. I laughed short, bitter. What ledgers? Julia shook her head. Don't play dumb. You really don't know, do you? Karen thinks your blueprints have the encrypted code she needs to open the board's off-the-books accounts. The board's been skimming HOA fees for years. Fines, extra dues, it's hush money. She wants it for herself. My pulse rocketed. Suddenly it all clicked. The relentless fines, the hidden cameras she thought I didn't know about, her secret code. This wasn't just petty HOA nonsense. Karen was trying to rip off her own partners in crime. And now they were here to stop her before she could. Julia's voice dropped. They're not here to negotiate. If they can't pin something on you, they'll make sure you disappear from this neighborhood. I've seen what they did to Mr. Hammond. They threatened his daughter. My chest tightened. Hammond's move had always felt forced, but blackmail? Extortion? How deep did this go? A loud clang snapped me back. On the feed, the lockpick guy was already at my side door, tools spread out like a surgeon's tray. Karen was pounding on the garage door, her voice raw and hysterical. And the other board members? They were surrounding Julia now, pulling her away from the fence, shouting at her to get inside. I had seconds to decide, let them break in and grab what they wanted or expose the entire rotten operation and risk every piece of leverage I had. I typed a single command into my phone, release all. If they stormed my garage now, they'd find an empty safe and every hidden file uploaded to the local news outlet server. Blueprints, camera footage, Karen's break-in, Julia's confession, all of it. But once I hit send, there was no coming back. I glanced out the window one last time, Karen still trapped in my garage, the lockpick's tool glinting in the porch light, the board closing in on Julia like wolves. My thumb hovered over the final confirmation button. One click and everyone's secrets burn. But do I really know who's going to get hurt the most? I closed my eyes and pressed send. For one long, breathless second, I stared at the upload complete message on my phone screen. I could almost hear my heart thundering louder than the pounding on my garage door. Outside, chaos erupted the moment the files went live. My motion sensors lit up like runway lights as the HOA board members' phones buzzed and dinged with push alerts. I could see them frantically checking their screens, Karen's panicked voice still shrieking from inside the garage, muffled by the steel door she'd thought she could outsmart. Ray's face twisted into something between fury and dread. He barked at the lockpick to stand down, then turned his eyes toward my living room window like he could see straight through the glass, straight into my head. He knew. He knew the whole rotten game was over. In the garage, Karen finally gave up jamming the latch and crumpled onto my workbench, clutching that little flash drive like it was her last lifeline. The overhead light flickered, illuminating the blueprint boxes she'd torn through, all empty now. There was nothing left to steal. Nothing left to twist. I cracked the door to the backyard just wide enough to catch Julia's terrified eyes as she wrestled free from the board's grip. Her bathrobe was half off her shoulder, her phone still clutched in her hand, buzzing nonstop as the files hit every local news feed. I met her gaze and mouthed, "It's done." But even then I knew the fight wasn't quite over. Because people like Ray don't just vanish when you shine a light on their secrets. They regroup. They find someone else to blame. And in that moment, as I heard sirens wailing in the distance, real cops this time, drawn by the alarm I tripped on purpose, I realized the only way out was all the way through. I stepped outside as Ray's SUV roared to life, his goons pulling Karen out of my garage like she was a wounded animal. She locked eyes with me, eyes wild with betrayal. She'd never imagined her petty power games could blow up this big. She'd always counted on fear and silence. But I'd built my system to do exactly this, expose the rot. Julia stood beside me now, shaking but standing her ground. For the first time, I felt the tightness in my chest loosen. The neighborhood lights flicked on one by one as sleepy homeowners peeked out to see what the commotion was about, people who'd never dared question the HOA board before. I heard the squad cars skid to a stop in my driveway. Flashlights swept the yard, but this time, they weren't looking for ways to bury the truth. They were there to drag it into the daylight, kicking and screaming. Karen shrieked something about unauthorized surveillance as she was led to the curb, her phone confiscated. Ray was nowhere to be seen, but I knew I'd see him again. Probably in a courtroom. As the first officer approached me, notebook out, I glanced back at my garage, the place that had been my fortress, my trap, my last stand. It looked smaller now, but somehow stronger. Because secrets built on fear never win when the lights come on. I took Julia's hand, steadying my breath as the officer asked for my statement. I had plenty to say. The neighborhood looked different the next morning, brighter somehow, like the mask had slipped off and the cracks were finally showing. Word spread fast. By sunrise, half the block had seen the security footage, Karen's break-in, the hidden flash drive, the desperate SUV stakeout. The local news had run the files overnight, confirming what some of us had only whispered about for years. The HOA board had been bleeding us dry, one bogus fine and trumped-up violation at a time. I stood at my driveway with a cup of coffee, the same spot where Karen once wagged her finger in my face and threatened to handle my noncompliance. Now her house sat dark and empty, a moving truck idled at the curb, its back doors yawning open. I'd heard she took a deal to avoid charges. Gave up names. Ray's name was at the top of the list. Julia shuffled up beside me, still in her faded robe, but her eyes looked clearer than I'd ever seen them. Last night, she told the truth even when it would have been easier to stay quiet. She'd been trapped too, paying hush money, afraid her kids would be targeted like Mr. Hammond's family. She gave me the last piece I needed to fight back, and she didn't ask for anything in return. I still can't believe it's over, she murmured, taking a sip from the extra coffee mug I'd handed her. Feels like they'll come back any minute. I shook my head. They probably will, just under different names. But now everyone knows how it works. No more secrets in the dark. A few neighbors trickled by, awkward but grateful. Mr. Parker, who once refused to sign my petition about unfair fines, gave me a thumbs up from across the street. The young couple 2 doors down, the ones who almost got kicked out for improper landscaping, dropped off a box of donuts as a thank you. Funny how fear holds people in line until one spark sets everything off. I walked Julia back to her yard and paused at the edge of my own driveway. The garage door, now reinforced, freshly painted, it gleamed in the morning sun. It didn't feel like a trap anymore. It felt like a promise that I'd never let someone like Karen make me afraid in my own home again. Before she stepped away, Julia looked at me. What'll you do now? You could sell the system. Make a fortune. I laughed. Maybe. But first, I'm helping the rest of the street get rid of the old HOA codes. No more universal keys. No more back doors. She smiled, and for the first time, I saw hope in her eyes. Guess we're not such easy targets anymore. I watched her disappear inside her house, her kids peeking through the window to see what she was doing. Normal life. Messy, nosy, imperfect, but ours again. I stood there a moment longer, thinking about my dad's words. Protect what's yours. Turns out that doesn't just mean locks and cameras, it means standing up, even when the system is designed to shut you up. It means turning your garage from a hiding place into a beacon. I know there'll be more Karens out there. More little power-hungry tyrants with universal codes. But there'll be people like Julia too. People who speak up when the lights are off. And people like me? We'll always have one more camera, one more backup plan, one more truth ready to leak when it matters. So, if you're watching this, if you've ever felt trapped by someone who thinks they hold the keys to your life, remember, the system only works if you stay silent. Shine your light. Protect what's yours. And don't let anyone tell you your garage, your home, your life belong to them. If you want to hear more stories like this, true stories about standing up, fighting back, and outsmarting the people who think they run everything, make sure you hit subscribe, drop a like, and share this video with someone who needs to know they're not alone. Your secrets deserve the light too.